All right. Good evening, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're joining from. I welcome you to another edition in my partnership series. Some of you have had to ask me, Tayo, we haven't been seeing you, and I really must apologize. To start with, I've actually been, doing a lot of things and all, but I must let you know that I'm very excited to be back on this conversation. And thanks to those of you that reached out to me to encourage that this is making the difference for you in what you are doing. And that's why I'm excited to be back to have this conversation with you. At the root of this conversation is my passion for what I usually would refer to as African emancipation. In essence, my desire and what I suspect, what I perceive strongly, is that there is a movement and a shift that is about to happen in Africa. And part of that positioning that has to be done is in the place of building strategic partnerships as one of those things that would make the difference for us as Africans, such that when we're able to have that kind of structure in place within the world, within that commerce, then we can begin to have that shift as well, whereby the business space becomes that space that changes everything for us. And so this is why I'm usually excited to come back, have this conversation with you. And so today we are going to be talking about insights into the role of partnerships in business growth and brand development. Insights into the role of partnerships in business growth and brand development. Many years back when I started Low Accent wasn't even Low Accent. For those who know the story, Low Accent actually started as another brand entirely, which, when I started that, I started really as the brand. Eitayo Ogunyemi was the name saying out there. I remember I had my website, eitayogunyemi.com, and I had this brand where many people already knew that name, such that I also had a blog. And just in case, the blog is there for historical purposes, I've refused to shut it down because I know time will come when it will make a reference point. So that's why that's there. But the point I'm trying to make is, in those periods, I really, really was out there and everything was built around me. And it's easy for you to mention the name Eitayo Ogunyemi, and people reckon with that name compared to the name of the brand that I was running with. And that's the reality of many African entrepreneurs. That's the reality of many African enterprise. The fact that their founders are like this and those businesses are at the tail level, which is not supposed to be the case. And I'm speaking categorically, especially because I believe as a person that we should start building businesses that are geared towards becoming transgenerational businesses. And this is one of the challenges with us within Africa. If we are going to build businesses that would outlive us, we need to begin to build something that at least will be at par with us and will not be somewhere beneath us. And this is one of the reasons we are having this conversation. So for me, I had my moments of struggle where everyone knew my name, but then few people knew the company name I was running with, and those few knew the company name because they knew me. So there was nothing built around that brand. There was nothing built for the future where people can say they are coming into the brand because of something about the brand. Every person that wanted to come into the brand was because of something about the founder, Eitayo Ogunyemi. And I said, this is the reality of many brands out there. I recall one of my very, very darling bosses, whom I treasure so much, and I still call him my boss. it just happened to be one of those things I saw with that brand at the time, that a lot was built around the personality of the person and not the brand. And the question I usually ask that comes to my mind is, what happens when this person is done and is gone? And it's just a rhetorical question, but in most cases, you'll find that when we get to the end of life, it almost looks certain that the business itself has come to the end of its life. And I've seen many great businesses go down the radar by reason of this thing I'm sharing with you today. A very, very important one for me within the industry that I represent as well. This man did great things, whole lot of things. But then each time I go through the front of this mighty, gigantic structure that has been put up by this man, it has become a shadow of itself, because the activities that were happening when this man was alive, they are no longer taking place within that structure. And what am I saying in essence? We need to begin to rethink how and what we do in business. We need to begin to rethink and then bring in the African ideology of building a community around things we do, and then bringing that into business. And I think this is something that would bring that originality of our culture as Africans into what we are doing, such that we can begin to leverage on that value system to build transgenerational businesses. For me, when I started my journey and everything was built around me, it was draining, it was tiring. I just couldn't have a life of my own, and I could not easily also discern people that really were passionate about the business, or rather passionate just about my being in the business. And so it became just very deceptive for me. I mean, people could just get deceptive, and then you're unable to easily discern what the rationale of people joining the fold is. Is it because they love the business, or because they respect you and you are the factor such that when you are out of it, they also pull out of it? So these were issues that started happening. But I've given two examples, and believe me, these were some of those examples that helped me to begin to rethink how and what I was doing. So I asked myself certain questions, and I told myself certain realities. Number one, my desire was to build a system that works and not just a business. Number two, my desire was to create a movement of people within the law sector, which I represent so much, such that we're able to redefine the concept of human rights activism, the concept of using law as a social tool to enable and to empower people, such that my thought was just a shift from what we used to know it to be, as shift from where we talk about human rights as stepping in for people fighting their rights, to changing the dynamics, to helping people to have an understanding of what the law is saying, and then become empowered to fight for their rights through what I call legal literacy. And then this was what gave birth to Law Accents. And I then had to start walking my journey along that path to ensure that I was structuring something where people can come into and then have a level of ownership in what is happening within the industry. But back to the gist, because I am taking you on a journey today, and I hope at the end of it is going to make some sense. So I told myself, having looked at all these things that I love to achieve, I told myself eventually that if I was going to achieve this, all and what I would be needing would be a partnership. My desire is to achieve something transgenerational. My desire is to achieve not just a business that makes the money, but the movement of people that changes everything about what law is and then brings it to what I believe it is supposed to be. My desire really was to make sure that we run a business that was not tied to my physical presence, something that will be transgenerational and people can step into pick that ideology, pick that value and that vision and run with it, with or without my physical presence. And I saw in all of these things that partnership is the way to go. So, what is partnership? Having said all of these things, I would rather call partnership as something different from what people call it. You'll find people say partnership is the coming together of people under the same vision to make money. Now, let's be real. After all, business is set to make money. I agree. But there's something more about partnership that we do not emphasize. And that is the fact that partnership should be about ideology. Partnership should be about movement. Partnership should be about philosophy, such that those things are the rationale for bringing people on board and setting people to be a part of what you are doing. And for me, these are the principles that sustain any brand and every brand. Check something out for me. Go out there, do your research, analyze transgenerational businesses you can talk about, businesses that have lived and outlived their founders. And just confirm, you'll find at the root of these businesses that 90 something percent of them are built as partnerships. And that presupposes that there is something we need to learn which can help us to be closer to that dream of building something transgenerational. So, what am I saying in essence? You need people that you can pass the baton to. You need people that would come in and then also hold that ideology and see what is being done as not just a regular business, but a movement of people with a way of thinking. Think of Apple. Apple wanted to build a group of people that were not the regular thinkers. Think of any brand you can mention, you will find an ideology behind the business, behind the money making. You will find an ideology, and this is the root of building any partnership through which you then begin to build a transgenerational business. Now, let me establish something. It's going to be really, really cheap a vision to just say you are building a business with the primary goal of making money and nothing more. You need to move from just merely making money to establishing a movement. See what you are doing as a me or us against them thing. In essence, us would mean ideology, us would mean vision, them would mean the regular norm, what is normal in the market. And then when you are able to build a horse against them thing, you begin to attract your own kind of people. And from that, you begin to grow your partnership. Remember, from the beginning of this series, we have talked about the different phases of relationship, and I've made a postulation about what I believe in the African context partnerships should be built on. It should be built on starting with simple relationship, from starting with friendship into going on dates, into going on courtships before you get into marriage. In essence, partnership should be organic. It should be something that is starting from basic things of life and then you are grooming it into the bigger things of life. What can you do in that context in what we are talking about today? Building an ideology of us against them thing would mean that you are creating a vision and you are making a mission whereby the people joining you are joining you because of that vision. And they are joining you because they would rather prefer that vision to what the norm is or what the public or the other members of that industry have to offer. And I want to tell you something. This potentially has a way of even making your business cheaper for you to operate. For instance, I've been privileged to have people join what we do at Law Accent because they want to have a feel of that vision and how we do things, which is pretty unique from what the regular law firm would do. I've had people join not because we were the best in the market to pay them the biggest of money, but they joined because they saw something we were doing that was uniquely different from anything that any other firm can offer to them. And this is what I call the horse against them thing. So, what am I driving at? You can potentially even use this to build a business and build a team, and from that team, you can begin to build that partnership, which would help you to graduate people into management such that you can take the back seat and allow these ones to run with the vision. Now, this is one of those things we can do in Africa. But let me tell you something about an Africa that I grew up knowing and the reality of our times and what I think we can do better in terms of bringing back the African culture into the business space and then leveraging on it to make the difference into what I can call the new African space that I really, really long for. Now, I grew up understanding that to groom a child, it takes the entire village. And this is an African proverb, interestingly. In essence, Africa thrives on communal living. Africa has never thrived on independent living where somebody stands somewhere and then stands all alone. Africa has always thrived on that communal mindset, that coming together, that bond, that support system that is used to enable the entire people to be able to be the best that they should be. And the question I ask myself is, if we're only to consider the child in the context, that context, and bring it as the business, can we build businesses around communal ideologies? Can we build businesses around communal support where we look at the business as the business of everybody, such that the business can receive nurturing from everybody? But you'll find that when it comes to business, a number of Africans would rather go solo. And I think this is one of the things that is not helping us within Africa. We need to begin to look at partnerships as one of those, those options that might just be gateway into the African prosperity that we really, really would deserve, which we really should work towards. So, in essence, if we all can begin to look at that communal living context and bring it into business, I believe that we would make a lot of difference, and leveraging that culture of helping and the support system, I believe will make a lot of difference. And this is what I have come to tell you today. This, for me, is why I believe that partnership is one of those panaceas to building great businesses. It's one of those remedies to that that very, very slow growth curve that I think we are having as Africans. And so we need to begin to rethink what we do and rethink the ideology behind what we do, such that we are building capacity in people and we are giving birth to partnerships that would help us free up the space for us, help us to do multiple things at the same time, and help us to bring in more people. And just in case, well, so I didn't plan this, but it just dawned on me that I think one of the challenges, and please get into the comment box, let me hear your thoughts. One of those challenges I found is there's this superstition around the witches and wizards from the village that may be pursuing somebody. I've heard many people tell me severally that, look, whatever you are doing, you have to do it silently, so that some witches and wizards will not follow you and all of that. I think that has bedeviled us so much. I think the witches and wizards come when those thoughts are passed on to us, and then they leverage on those thoughts to then cloud our mind, and then we forget that we have leveraged. Nobody has ever said, at least growing up, that when you allow your child to to have that communal in that communal context, it's really said that, oh, the child is going to become sports. Otherwise, why do we have that proverb that it takes an entire village to raise a child, which is just figurative? If an entire village raise a child, I would want to dare and encourage you, let the same entire village build your business. And this is the summary of partnership. This is what partnership is all about. So, how do you now actualize these things? How can we bring these strengths into business relationship? The strength of communal living that we have as Africans. Number one is every business needs to understand what their core values are. You need to know what makes you you as against every other brand in the same industry. And then the next thing is you need to begin to sell your corporate values. You do not invest in selling products. And get me right, this is another mistake we make as African entrepreneurs. We invest so much in marketing our products and we forget to invest in marketing our visions and what makes us to be us, what makes that difference. We need to begin to sell those things. Many years ago, this was just me understanding what made Apple to be Apple. Many years ago, one key thing I found at the root of what Apple did was the fact that they didn't set out to be exclusive in that context of exclusive. They rather set out to build a movement, to build a philosophy, to build an ideology, and they made sure that even those working with them, they bought into those ideology. You'd find a typical Apple person saying that they build for themselves what they would love to use, and then from there they created services for other people. It wasn't really about the product, it was about an ideology, it was about a movement. And this is one of those things we need to leverage on as African entrepreneurs. You need to sell your corporate values. You need to sell what makes you you, what makes that brand, as against every other brand within the industry. And then the next thing is you need to begin to attract your own products in the market. If you are doing your recruitment, if you're trying to get an investor to invest in that business, or you are opening up for partnership, you need to remember that at the end of it, you must be getting people that are buying into your corporate values and not just people that are seeing the prospect of what money can come out of the venture. And this is crucial. This will help your discernment. Whether it's partnership or somebody bringing in the money, it has to be somebody that is passionate enough about the we against them thing. You need to write this down and you need to run with it from now. It's a we against them. Whatever you are doing, whichever industry, there has to be something about us against them. And when you create that, you have just created a force that the few that will believe in that vision will reckon with. And even when you say you are bringing in people on internship and you don't have the money to pay them, they will be happy to run with you because they are sold out to that vision. See, when you create a movement, it changes a lot of things. It changes the dynamics of a lot of things. And don't be shocked at that synergy, at that partnership opportunities that come from creating movements, which is what this conversation is really all about. So you need to begin to attract your own product, whether financiers, whether employees, whether partners, technical partners. You need to begin to attract your own kind of people in that market space. And finally, you need to make sure when you have attracted your own kind of people, create a career path for team members to grow and to become partners. When you open up what you are doing for other people to know that they can get to the peak and they can pitch their tents, then they will be happy to run the race with you and they'll be happy to join in that which is being done because they know that there is an opening for them and there is a hope for them, which is not about you alone. Please don't be among those selfish folks that have not helped us in Africa. Open up what you are doing, open it up to partnership, and you will begin to see fresh ideas, new things will begin to happen in that business. And I'm sure that you are going to be very happy for it. Thank you for joining today's conversation. My name is Eyitayo Ogunyemi. I'm very passionate about African emancipation, and this is my own commitment to that which I see is going to be happening pretty soon. And thanks for allowing me to have this conversation with you. Remember to share it with people, share it with as many people as you can. And thank you once again. Go out for yourself a wonderful, wonderful time.